ask them for their permit,
Right.
call the sheriff's department. Don't
Yeah.
ask them, because that'll give
Don't
them a
ask
scare them away.
chase them
clue.
away.
Right, that'll scare them
The reason
away.
is, you
Call
don't
them
scare them away
immediately,
before
they're
the
after-
sheriff can arrive.
Yeah, and
Yes.
if you got, if somebody else, if you can get somebody else to go call the sheriff while you keep them and interact, but don't give away that they have a
Right.
permit, get the sheriff to get over and talk to whoever.
I
Yeah,
get
I
That's
them
the
to the
key
door
point
and
of
they
it.
will usually identify that they have some kind of a permit
Yeah.
if they do. If they don't say that, or they don't, a lot of times they'll have a clipboard and, they'll say, look, I'm doing this and this is my license and so, usually they're upfront about it because they know our antenna, at least I think they know our antenna are up to some degree. But still, I agree, call immediately.
And I actually said what you said, but do you have a permit, the city requires you to have a permit to go around, and I said, I'm not, just like you said, I said, I'm not gonna call the sheriff's department, but I'm pretty sure somebody else will. Yes. And I think that's when she kinda left that day. And the next time I wasn't there, but Milt was vigilant and he really saw and everything and called in time.
Got it.
And it's just that, I think it leads to one other aspect, maybe later, but why can't we have no soliciting signs
Yes.
in a little more public
Yes.
areas, so that the
At the beginning
city,
of the neighborhood.
yes, so the
Yeah.
city prohibits
Right.
soliciting, and I think,
Right, that's a good point, and we
But I
can,
thought that was
but
brought
I'm not
down
sure you were
from
done
the-
with your.
No, I wasn't quite done. The bottom line on this is, don't ask them if they have a
Yes.
permit.
yeah,
They'll present it to you if they do have. If they don't present it, say, thank you, not interested, when they
Yes.
leave, see what they're doing and call the sheriff simultaneously, because he'll see if they have a permit.
Yep.
And they tell me they don't mind
That's what
coming
we're
out.
paying for,
Yeah.
I mean, they're quite adamant.
yes.
We don't mind coming out. The other thing that was suspicious here was a woman was driving an Arizona
Yeah.
plate
Right.
car. And the sheriff, after he, they came by, I reported the license plate number, and they had researched it, and they said it was a rental car.
Right.
So this is all strange.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't know what happened after
That is very strange, bizarre behavior, right?
Very
And-
bizarre.
And, I'll tell you, there was a point of time, just one point before, I was working out of home, maybe like 8 years ago. This was like the first day of school, when school had opened up in January. And I see this like really old dinky car driving through my neighborhood. And I'm like, that car does not belong here, because the gardeners typically, I know what they drive, and I'm like busy on my call. An hour later, I hear there was a break-in. And then one of my neighbors has a camera which is street facing, and they found the exact time, and it was the same exact car. And this car had the audacity to come back, because what happened was some neighbor saw them that was peering into the home, and they got scared, they left. After 2 hours, they came back again into the same neighborhood, into the same home to see, can I break in one more time? And by then, the cops are already there, because we caught the car on camera twice. They came in and they left. They realized that, oh my God, there's a sheriff here. They left, right? So, but I totally agree with that. It's better not to initiate dialogue with them. All we have to do is make our presence felt in the home, right? Like stomping our feet that, yes, somebody is there at home, and call the sheriff. Because you don't want your home to be broken into because they rang the doorbell. There's nobody at home, they'll break into it, right? You don't want to confront them, but at the same time, call the sheriff and let them deal with the situation, right? I think that's the best way to deal with it.
So, if they voluntarily show the permit, is there like some kind of a standard permit it looks like? Because, I can write pretty much
Exactly.
typed and, looks very authentic.
They have a few of those.
That really doesn't tell me anything. And also, a lot of times, there are teenagers who are doing magazine solicitations.
Yes.
Could be a very well-intended, somebody who's trying to
Girl Scout
collect some
cookies.
funds
Yeah.
to go to Washington DC or whatever wherever
Yes.
they're going to. I mean, like, how do we distinguish one of them? I mean, we don't want to just make a lot of crank calls to the police department and, they kind of lose focus on this, like, well, people on Sumner Drive seem to be like very touchy.
A sample
so
on the
let's
website
take-
would be a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's
to put
another
out.
thing.
Yes, actually, that's a great point. I think we do need a sample.
Because you have to balance the number of
Yes.
calls
Yes.
and also, make sure that some of them are effective.
So
But if you-
typically,
if
you
you
know,
put
nobody,
it-
nobody takes the
Yeah.
trouble of creating some fake permit, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
it's not on the radar.
Are
They'll
those
show up.
permits online? I mean, are they available for public?
Yeah, but the more I know about it, if I'm the thief, the more I can create exactly what that looks like.
No,
I
I mean, I meant from the city website. These permits have been issued to these
No,
people?
the listing is not there. The listing of all the permits, no. But typically if you ask them, it's a black and white answer, it's yes or no. Yeah, yes, I have it in the car, or no, I don't have it, right? I mean, it's typically like that. Or if they have it, you know, it's typically a contractor who's walking around, he's paying somebody, contractor's trying to solicit a,
Tree
whole
service.
project,
that's the big
tree
one.
service. They are well informed. They will show you the permit, the moment you ask them, here is my permit, right? They'll have it. You can tell whether they have it or not, right? But it's a sample permit, yes, it's a good idea. No solicitation sign, you know, in our neighborhood, most people outside their home, they have a no solicitation sign,
Doesn't do
right?
anything.
It doesn't do anything, right? But,
Yeah.
you know, even if you put it outside in the entrance to your neighborhood, people will still
Glass
violate
sign.
that, right? So
They
it's,
will, but if it's from city of Saratoga, you know, it's all about filtering out.
Yes,
It's all about
yes.
filters.
yes.
And what's gonna happen, most likely would happen in spite of all types of things, but it's about minimizing.
Yeah, like I
Absolutely.
say, violators will be prosecuted.
Yes, that's it, I
Creating-
mean, that's
You
an
know,
official
that'd be one-
sign from city
You
of
know,
Saratoga.
screen out a certain percentage.
You don't,
Yeah.
nothing makes it impossible, you wanna make it harder.
That's
Yes,
what it is all
Exactly.
about.
So we call it creating deterrence. You know, the more deterrent you place, you know, in fact, in the tail end of the session, if you have time, I'll walk through a few deterrents. It's all published online, I'll send you the link as well. So let's get going. So
Rishi,
objective,
really quick, I thought that we couldn't, or it was ruled illegal to require a permit. I thought it was struck down by, you know, a high court or something like that. I had heard
Nope.
or read about that,
Nope.
so it is,
yes,
we can actually, or the city.
yes.
can
Our
require a
city
permit.
has a process. I don't know what they charge, is like $25-40 is what they need to pay, and then they can walk around in our neighborhoods. So here is the thing, you know, so today's objectives, will run through what it takes to create a neighborhood safety watch. We call it bridges of cooperation instead of walls of isolation, right? And in our neighborhood is a good example, we'll talk a little bit about that. So basically, what this program does for you is to brings the neighborhood together. You get to, you know, it's already happening, all of you know each other in the neighborhood, you know, so it's that part of the equation is already solved, right? You all know each other. But it's a question of now creating a process and creating a framework of how you can go out and empower your own safety. So that's really what Neighborhood Safety Watch provides for you. And it also helps you partner effectively with law enforcement, you know. You will get to, Ben will know the sheriff on a first name basis, and Ben will be the neighborhood representative to talk to law enforcement about issues that are happening. You know, it's good to have a liaison from the neighborhood. You know, all of you calling, you know, it'll be, you can obviously call their phone number and say, hey, I have a problem, can you send somebody down? But when, as a collective voice, it sort of makes sense to have a coordinator, a leader from the neighborhood who's in charge in interfacing with law enforcement. And, you know, it's basically about, we understand all the challenges are, how do we work, how do we collaborate to address some of these challenges, right? So that's really what the Neighborhood Safety Watch will provide for you. And let's get going. So citizens empowering our own safety, because, you know, obviously we are spending money for, you know, we are patrolling our neighborhoods. I sent out an email to Captain Ritzson, are we patrolling our neighborhoods? This was like 6 weeks ago. And the answer was yes. We do it as frequently as much as we can, right? So, it's part of the DNA of our sheriff's office to patrol as much as we can. Can we cover all 12,000 homes? I think it's kind of difficult. With the level of deployment we have, it's kind of hard, right? So what we have is, we have a Safe Saratoga forum. It's a discussion group, talk about issues, challenges, how we are hitting it. We are bringing up issues that are happening, break-ins, you know, things that we are observing in. So I'll be sending out the slide deck which has this. And then there is a safety tips. So this safety tips is from our own neighborhood. I've actually talked to our city manager that we need to have a safety site on our city website where people can go in, they can figure out how to create a neighborhood safety watch, they can figure out, you know, what kind of a permit is needed for people to walk in our neighborhood, things like that. That way, arming our citizens with the facts, right? So that should be sitting on the city website. How to form a neighborhood safety watch? That will be a component of what we'll have on the city website also. Right now, it's not, but we will have it. So use case, success in a neighborhood. I'm gonna talk about my neighborhood. When I got in there in 2001, you know, my neighbor who had lived there for like 30 years,
Where do you live?
so I live just south of Cox in the Golden Triangle. And my next door neighbor, he had never talked to the neighbor right across the street for like 25 years. And I'm like, why? Well, I think because the other guy works for the CIA. I don't want to do anything with him. I'm like, no, it's not the CIA. He works for Pratt and Whitney. You know? Back in those days, everybody was a mechanical engineer. He's an engineer. You are an engineer. You are both geeks. Friends for life. Come on, start. You know, so they got to meet each other and they became the best of friends. And this is what triggered, you know, some of the things that we did. And then there was a break-in that happened. And we said, let's do a neighborhood safety watch. We went through the process. We had a meeting in the library. We got the sheriff involved. You know, we went out and talked to the city council. We did all this kind of stuff. And then we started having block parties, right? So now everybody in our neighborhood, almost everybody who's even a little bit social, they all know each other, right? So people are walking the dogs. We know each other by name. So it has changed significantly in the last 15 years, right? And it's purely because of that first step we took was to create a neighborhood safety watch, got block captains enrolled into the program, citizens to believe in it. So initially, when I was walking door to door talking about we need to have a neighborhood safety watch, and people would tell me, well, I've lived here for 30 years, we don't need that kind of stuff, right? So this was in the very early days when I started doing it. And then there was a break-in, and we had started a neighborhood email group, and we started talking about the break-in, and then I got like 25 requests from people wanting to join that, because initially when we were talking about the neighborhood group, we don't need an email group here. You know, we have lived happily here without an email group. But the moment the break-in happened, people started talking about it. They felt left out. Oh my God, that information is not coming to me. So now people joined the email group and they started talking about the safety stuff. It became a priority that yes, we need to do a neighborhood safety watch. So that's the slow little bit of change management, right? So when you look at what it takes for us to roll something out, it's very hard because people are used to what they have done over the last whatever years. But the moment you start talking about the benefit that can derive from it, that's when it changes and changes slow. But you know, right now, you know, almost 80% of our community is in the email group. People are talking about stuff. You know, somebody's stroller got stolen right outside the house last year. You know, the mom had walked in to have a cup of coffee with a friend, left the stroller outside, and the stroller was gone. And that became like a huge news in our neighborhood. Everybody knows what is going on. So our focus area is the Sumner Drive and you know, the area where most of you live in. And so the neighborhood safety watch will be established in that neighborhood. So typically it's kind of a good idea to have what is my focus neighborhood, because if you make it too big, it becomes a little bit hard to corral and maintain. But if you keep it sufficiently small, that might be the way to go.
Well, one other thing, can you put that one back up? You know, there's like 2 ways in, so 2 ways out.
Yes.
And so if the neighborhood, in this case our neighborhood, is sort of self-contained, just to point that out, it's a logical geography, if you will.
Actually, there's more than 2 because that creek has access, and that's a real problem.
That's a good point. Also, the railroad track,
Yeah.
Exercise path has a cut in at the end of Sumner.
Right.
End of Blue Line.
So there's a lot of places where they can kind of sneak around and no one can see them
In
coming and
terms of
going.
car access there, which is important if you're gonna be doing
But
that.
they can park elsewhere and walk through places where people can't see them walking. So they can jump the back fence
Yep.
on probably, I'd say, 20% of those properties.
Mhm.
And no one's on the back fence to see it.
So when you have a gate in the back,
I'm sorry,
how many of them have a gate back there that doesn't have a lock on it?
I have 2 gates and they're both locked. I've always had
Many
them
people
locked.
don't have a lock, so they
Yes.
just walk along and look for one that's open.
Thought you might want.
Exactly. You're right.
But they can still hop over that and it takes 2 seconds and you know.
Extra copy?
Then they walk
Yours.
around, don't.
Yeah, scan that one in and.
Okay. So now we'll walk through the process, what it takes to establish the neighborhood safety watch, and once you have that, We talked about 2 entry points, exit points into the neighborhood, so we'll put up signs in both locations that you are under the watch, when you come in, you are under the watch. And also, some neighborhoods, what they're talking about is these entry exit points, they're actually putting up cameras there. So they monitor everybody. Now, people talk about privacy issues. When we first talked about it in our neighborhood, oh no, my privacy is very important to me. But when you are on a public road, all the privacy is compromised, right? You go to Boston, New York, there are cameras all over, There's no way to avoid that. You're on a public street, there's no privacy there. So you have every right to take a camera, put it on your house and point it to the street, point it to the entrance and exit where you're monitoring every single car coming in. You put it on a neighborhood repository where it's shareable, everybody's able to access into it, look into it. And in our neighborhood, we haven't done it yet, but we are talking about a program where we buy the same exact camera, the system. We have a company go out and deploy. Whoever wants to have it, they will deploy it. Inside the house, outside the house, whatever it takes. And that way, it's the same exact system. We all know how it works, who has it, who does not have it. Now, if I put it in my home, I'm liable for the charge. If you put it in your home, you will be liable for the charge. So, if you have an HOA, then the HOA will cover the expense, right? In our neighborhood, we don't have an HOA, so it's up to us. But, it's what we need to do, because I think it's a problem. How do we address that? If you have cameras, we call it the deterrent factor, right? If you have cameras, if you have beware of the dog, even if you don't have a dog, you lock the fence doors, no soliciting signs, this house under video monitoring, things like that. These are deterrents that you're putting in place. And in fact, one of my neighbors, he's got a barking dog. He found something on Amazon, and it's motion sensor. When you walk near the house, it starts barking, right? It's like, it's so fake. But it's a deterrent, like somebody is walking in and they just hear, oh, maybe there's a dog inside, they walk away, right? Things like that. So put in as much deterrence as we can, and a neighborhood safety watch is a great start. So let's talk about the different steps in establishing a neighborhood safety watch
Hey,
program.
we should, just before we go to that, this sign, not only the entrance.
Yes.
What do you think about coordinating to put one in every yard?
I think.
That would scare the crap out of me if I came to rob houses and I saw this sign in every one of those houses.
Right.
I'd turn around and find a different street.
Actually, these guys, they understand how neighborhood safety watch works, right? All they are looking out is anybody observing me? That's all they care for, right? So we can put as many signs, but if, they come in the middle of the night, right? I mean, so it serves a particular purpose, it serves a particular purpose only to an extent is what I'm saying, right?
Just
So
put
if you-
smile, you're on camera.
Smile, exactly. We put in too many signs, it will also create a little clutter, right? I mean, you have too
Right
many
now.
signs all over, so something to think about,
We're
right?
just looking at the cameras.
So let's run through the steps. So the first step is to identify a neighborhood safety coordinator, somebody who will lead that effort, and I believe it's Ben who's leading the effort, correct?
It's these two.
So 2 is a good number, because in our neighborhood, we had 2 people who actually led the neighborhood safety effort. So 2 is a good number. And you can collaborate, and that's the best way to get started. So what are the roles and responsibilities? Essentially, the role is very simple. It's, okay, so here is one thing I would like to tell you. When we started rolling it, oh, I don't want to be the block captain, because if there is a break-in, they'll sue me. No, it's not like that. Because we are all in charge for our own safety. Just because somebody is a neighborhood safety coordinator, somebody is a block captain, doesn't mean they will get sued, because it's not like it's up to them to be sitting outside their door and watching every single house, right? It's not like that. So it's basically a process. It's a system that we are creating. And as neighborhood safety coordinator, Ben and Arun will actually be the liaison into the sheriff's office. They will be the liaison into the block captains, right? And they will help steer programs. They will disseminate information to the neighborhood, things like that, right? So you need some sort of a leadership to create the framework of this program. And that's the leadership that Ben and Arun will bring, right? And the most important task that they have is to recruit the block captains. Because now, what Ben and Arun will do is they'll look at the neighborhood map and they'll say, let's break it down into zones, into different zones. And in each zone, we need to have a neighborhood. How do you break out the zones? The zonings are very simple. It's based upon visibility, right? So what we did was the courts. Every court is its own zone, because now these neighbors can see each other. Now, will we take a home which is cut away from that court on the other side and put them as part of this zone? that may not work very well, because now these guys are not able to see each other. When does the pool guy come in? When does the gardener come in? This zone members, they know that kind of information, right? It makes it easier to monitor the homes. And so also, as part of the neighborhood safety coordinator, what you will do is you get the block captains, you will provide them some basic information, get them to embrace the program, and then you will have a neighborhood meeting where you will invite everybody from the neighborhood. You will also invite the sheriff's office. And you will roll out this neighborhood safety watch and say, okay, this is what we are doing, this is the reason why we are doing. People will raise objections, not everybody will be happy for whatever reason. It's very hard to get 100% of the people, 80, 90%, you have to run forward with it. And once you have done that, you have demonstrated to the sheriff that, hey, our neighborhood is in this, we have the structure in place, they will communicate to the city that let's put up a neighborhood safety watch. So that's the extent of your commitment, right?
And Rishi, may I just take a moment, while we have people in the room, before I know people may need to leave early, et cetera. This is right now the weak link of our system, I would say, is block captains. And so if anyone here today can volunteer to be a block captain, as Rishi said, we've carved the zone, and I know there are people from outside this small target area that Rishi had up on his map a minute ago. But we could get a block captain from Sumner, from McCartysville, from Claridge, and from Blue Meadow Court.
I already volunteer yet.
I want the hat.
Today is an excellent time because it's hard to get coordination,
So who are the block captains in this room
Yeah.
today? Who are the block captains?
Well, I might take it on
Raise your
initially.
hand, Byron.
Okay, we have one.
And Byron, you're on,
McCarty Corner from Cartersville in summer.
Co-captain, so it's
Yes,
not
yes,
such a
yeah.
big.
Absolutely.
Okay,
In fact, every block captain has a backup, right? So because the block captain is gone, it's a good idea to have a backup, so you always have two. So we'll talk through.
McCartysville.
Ben, before we get into the great details,
Yeah.
let's run through the process really quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yep.
So responsibility of the neighborhood safety coordinator, setup and governance of the neighborhood safety watch. Governance, that's it, it's key. Liaison with the city of Saratoga, act as law enforcement liaison, and oversees the distribution of materials and information. And now what we do is like how Ben did, he had a Google Doc, hey, I want to collect all your email addresses. Hey, sign up for block captain, right? I mean, that's the best way to do it. It's the